Hey guys, Rhoku here back with some more League of Legends, and today we've got another Darius guide video. You guys asked for it, I'm here to deliver, and here I'm going to talk about mostly the runes and the build because those are our biggest concerns in the preseason. You know, I'll make a full-on Darius guide video with the combos and stuff later down the line, but this is just the builds and the runes, so yeah, let's just get right into it. So the biggest thing that we're basically arguing over or we're wondering about the new season is Lethal Tempo. I get questions about it all the time. I made a ton of videos about it, and nowadays I exclusively run Lethal Tempo. And the question is, what's the better Keystone, Lethal Tempo or Conqueror? Now, the answer to this question kind of varies depending on what matchup you're up against. The way Lethal Tempo works right now is that if you're up against a melee matchup, and you do not take Lethal Tempo, you're at a massive disadvantage, okay? So against basically all melee matchups, you want to take Lethal Tempo. Like, I've talked to some, other high-ranking Darius players about, like, this runes, and, there are some people who say take it into all melee matchups, there are some people who say just, there are some kiting matchups where it's Conqueror is better, but I think the general consensus is that if the enemy is melee, take Lethal Tempo, it's way better. If they are ranged, take Conqueror, because with Lethal Tempo, when you get to auto-attack someone, you get your bonus of just the attack speed. But with Conqueror, your line of contact with the enemy is more so with your abilities because they're going to be far away from you, right? So if it's a range matchup, Conqueror. If it's a melee matchup, Lethal Tempo, okay? Either one. Now, the rest of the rune page changes depending on which one of these two you pick. When we pick Conqueror, we go for the usual stuff of, Triumph, Alacrity. Last time we can switch this out for Tenacity. And on the secondary tree, you can go for Sorcery with Nimbus Cloak and Celerity if you're up against an easy lane. Or you can go for Resolve, let's say Bone Plating, and like on the Flinching, you're up against the Jax or something. And the default runes. Like, this is like the same rune page that we use the whole season. But if you go Lethal Tempo, you suddenly don't need to spend these runes on attack speed. The thing with Lethal Tempo is that because it gives you all the attack speed you'd ever need, you no longer need to waste your builds or your runes on attack speed. So you can just go straight double AD Tenacity, you can go double resistances, you can go HP resist and AD, right? You don't need to spend these, like, rune slots on attack speed. So if you're going Lethal Tempo, please make use of this, okay? Don't just take attack speed with Lethal Tempo because, like, I've tried it with just Tenacity and will also attack speed, and there's there's not much difference, okay? Lethal Tempo already gives us the attack speed that all the attack speed Darius would ever need, okay? Just go for the meaty stuff, and we're good to go. Alright, so here we come to the part of the video that's just like, the one we've all been curious about. How do Darius' builds change due to the new preseason items? And the answer is not that much, but there are some variations in here and there that I'd like to talk about to make sure that we're all up to speed, okay? Now, because Lethal Tempo has given us all the attack speed we need, all the items that lacked in attack speed are now way more viable. So, Drinker, it had no attack speed before, okay? So it was basically the option you wanted to go for if you don't want to outplay anything, if you don't want to 1v1, you just want to, be a meathead. Now with Lethal Tempo, we can go Drinker and be very powerful, okay? And make use of all these stats while having attack speed. So, same with Divine Sunder. Lethal Tempo is actually a huge buff to Divine Sunder Darius. So there's that. You can still go Stride. Going Triforce when you have Lethal Tempo isn't really good because this is like the attack speed item. So going this with Lethal Tempo is just wasting so much of his stats. So, yeah, okay? I've split out the usable mythics for Conqueror and for Lethal Tempo in the item set. I'll leave it in the description below, so just go get that. I have, like, tank mythics up in here as well, because tank mythics are now viable. Like they were kind of viable before too, but especially now that we have Lethal Tempo and, now that Predator is broken, you can go Jungle Darius with Turbo Chemtank, but still, like, these tank items are very workable if you run into certain games where you might need them, okay? So, if you want to be a bit more engaged, you can go Turbo Chemtank, but if you're up against a champion that you need to kite more, say like a Trinity or something, frostfire gauntlet is actually so powerful. And, I actually love the new Turbo Chemtank because of the damage it does. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but they changed the item so that the more you move around, the more you stack up this turbo thing, and it just procs your auto attacks, and it does quite a decent amount of damage. So it's pretty good in my opinion. So yeah, like it's not like too much that is whoa, just one shot combo, but it's noticeable damage. So yeah, out of the 2 tank items, Turbo Chemtank probably does more damage. So that's the one you want to lean towards if you're going tank Darius. But then again, if the situation calls for it, just go for whichever one's better. Now, the big item that has shaken up the meta in terms of what to build is this little guy right here, Winter's Approach. Now, this item is very, very strong on Darius, okay? The stats on it are horrible, but the shielding actually is quite clutch in certain fights. So if you're up against an enemy team that doesn't have that, you know, strong of a backline, this item is very good. Because what this item does is that, like, in those kinds of fights, where you're just barely surviving, it's gonna be the shield that makes you survive, okay? Like, let's just say that there's no one in the enemy team that can just one-shot you, then this item will stop them from, like, this item will just, like, give you enough time to get your 5 stacks and to just kill everyone, okay? So, against teams where they don't have anybody, like, who's a super fed backliner, like, they don't have a fed Kog'Maw or, like, a fed Vayne or something, you get this item, and it's amazing. But if you are gonna get it, make sure you buy tier on your first back, okay? Don't get it as the first item, but don't get it after your first back, because the thing with tier is that it stacks up super slowly on Darius because he's melee, right? With other tier stackers, let's say Ezreal or a ton of mages and stuff, they can just sit here and just, you know, poke at the wave. It's like they can do it in safety, right? And they can also move around the map better. But with Darius, you have to walk up to the wave and then start comboing it. And your abilities aren't very, like, you know, pointy and spammable and stuff like that either, right? So it's like, stacking tier on Darius is very difficult, especially outside of lane. So you want to get this as early into the lane phase as possible, but not too early. If you get it instead of, like, your first item, then you're going to be lacking some crucial stats that let you just kill people, right? It's like, I have a bunch of videos of me trying this item out for the first time, and it's like, because I go for tier first item instead of D-Blade, it just causes me, like, it just ruins so many kills for me. So I can't recommend you go starting item tier, but I think you should go tier, like, you know, once you're beyond the first back, and it's like, you know, okay, the fight's over, I've reset, and now I'm going to back and get this. That kind of thing I'm talking about. If you're doing a cheater recall, then it's perfect, okay? Like, this item is perfect for cheater recalls because, like, it also lets you just spam your abilities to just like thin the wave and slow it down. So yeah, so tier is perfect on Darius for cheater recalls. Anyway, as for when you complete the item of Winter's Approach, you basically just want to do it whenever the tier is complete. And if you buy the item at the right point, it's gonna be just before Sterak's. And if you kind of delayed it a bit or maybe didn't stack properly, it's going to be after Sterak's. But just as long as it's in your first 3 items, then you're good to go. Like, if you buy this item way later on into the game, you're not going to get much use of it because the shield kind of does spike, you know, after laning phase. So ideally, you want to have it stacked up second item. Okay, so get to your like first back and then finish Winter's Wrath second item. Okay, and after that, it's just, you know, business as usual. Go Sterak's into full tank. Okay, so yeah. The list of useful mythics is also basically the exact same, with the exception of Force of Nature, which has gotten a massive buff. So basically, old MR, the way resistances work is like this, okay? So let's just look at the resistance, right? 30% reduced magic damage. Now we buy 40 magic resist. It's gone to 15%, okay? Now let's buy 50. 57, okay? The amount we get is now lower, okay? Let's buy 50 more, right? And it's like 60. It's like the more MR we get, the less use we get of the MR. All right. And the thing with mages is that Void Staff, they have so much magic pen. They just cut through your, like, magic resist like butter. Okay. So when a mage wants to, they will destroy your magic resist all of that at once. So the state of anti MR items is that you can never stack enough to overcome anti-heal. I mean, you can, same is the case for armor because of LDR, but still though, right? So for the longest time, it's been the case that you can't tank up against mages. But now, you can. What this item does is it gives a ton of MR, 70 is huge, but on top of all that, it cuts 20% magic damage. Just 20% straight up. Once you stack it up, 20% magic damage just gone is absolutely huge, okay? So if you need an MR item, this is the one to go, right? It's a huge amount of magic damage just gone, okay? It's like having an Anathema's Chains, but on all the mages in the game, basically. It's just kind of crazy. So this is the MR item to go. It's way better than Spirit Visage now because it offers like way more MR. It offers move speed, which is better with the new, because like the thing that the new Lethal Tempo Darius and Great Divine Thunder builds, the thing that they lack is move speed. That's why Stride is still a thing. Stride gives us the move speed we need, but you know, this thing is just so huge. I absolutely love it. So yeah, this is our best MR item currently. Okay. On other news, Gargoyle Stoneplate did eat a nice little buff, 100 gold cheaper, so we should be getting it more. The thing I noticed about a lot of like learning players is that they buy this item but they don't even use it. So buy it and use it, and then yeah, we should be good to go. All right, so that's just discussion for all the items. Sterak's is still our best item, right? Get it like every game, no matter what happens. This is for suppressions, mortal. This is for anti-heal. And like I've explained all these items in my previous guide, so if you want to check them out, you know, just check out my other Darius guys, because all this stuff is just old news. As for our final builds, our final build formula, what has changed about it? Okay, so the basic idea is this, right? First item is always Mythic, then it's either Sterak's or Fimbulwinter, and then it's full tank. Okay, that's the order, right? Mythic. If Fimbulwinter is stacked, then you build it, then Sterak's, and then full tank. That's the build for Darius right now, okay? That's what the build we're going for every single time, right? The example builds I've like put here are basically just example builds that I've created. Like, you know, if you're up against a team that's just full 80, you can go for this, be unkillable. If you're up against a team that's like kind of balanced, you can go for this. But these builds are just meant like as blueprints and as examples. Let's say, you're up against mostly AP, but they have no tanks. They can swap this out for a Gold Drinker or a Stridebreaker, no problem, right? Or, you know, if you're up against a mostly AD team, but they're they're a ton of damage, they can swap this out for, you know, a Turbo chemtank or a frostfire gauntlet, no problem, right? It's like, you have to be able to swap these builds out. These are just examples, not things you should follow 1-to-1. I think that basically covers all the rune stuff and the build stuff for the preseason. Remember, we're just in like the first patch of preseason, so things are bound to change, bound to get nerfed, bound to get buffed. I mean, honestly, I don't think Riot's gonna buff or change anything because they rarely do. But yeah, like once they release something, they rarely change it. So I'm pretty confident about these items staying the same going forward. But if they get changed, I will make a new video on that. So stay tuned. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.